Welcome to the Sweet Baseball Podcast, where we go through all the top stories in college baseball this past week, starting with maybe the number one headline. The curse of the number one overall team has officially started for the second straight week. We have a new SEC team on top. This time it is Texas taking the number one spot in our rankings. You can see it on screen on our YouTube. Right now Texas has just looked the most consistent team in the country. Week in, week out, they haven't lost a series, I believe, yet. One of the few teams to do so, and doing that in the SEC is super impressive considering the teams that they have faced, especially at home, just top competition seemingly every week. And to consistently be able to pull out series wins, really impressive for that team and Schlossnagel in his first season there.
Yeah, just super impressive. I think I saw today they just have north of a 3 ERA, and that's super impressive when you take into consideration they've played against teams like Georgia, LSU, teams that have put up massive numbers offensively on other opponents. But Texas is really holding those teams to a minimum there, and yeah, give props to the coaching staff there on really changing the culture there so far and getting this team in a super impressive position for the first year under that staff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think staying in Texas, old team for Schlossnagel, we can go to a team that started out as a great team, potentially should have been at least. And now it seems like maybe they're starting to finally figure things out. Obviously, talking about Texas A&M here, especially considering how some of the games ended in the previous series against South Carolina this past week with two grand slams in the ninth to walk it off and get that sweep in the end. Super impressive stuff. They're finally getting those wins, and yeah, getting a sweep against an SEC team really erases a lot of the, I don't know, not necessarily doubt, but the inconsistencies they had, and just makes up for a lot of ground that they definitely were lacking for a while throughout the season. And getting that there, seems like they're getting their confidence back. The hitting is starting to show up, at least in more clutch scenarios, and the pitching hasn't really been the issue for this team. And so if the hitting starts to get going, we could see A&M make a deep run like we've seen teams like Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State in the past few years just not have the great regular season, but able to back it up and go super deep or win the College World Series.
Yeah, five straight wins now in SEC play. And like you said, a huge comeback like that in the ninth inning, that can be something that really sparks a team. We're already seeing that confidence kind of starting to grow after a really horrible start to the season. And yeah, when a talented team like that kind of gets their swagger back and starts playing with confidence, the sky's the limit there. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to keep this upward trajectory. If so, I mean, that could be an Omaha team easily. We know what the expectations were preseason. We'll see if they're able to keep that up.
Yeah, and I think from the past week, especially in the SEC, we saw a lot of top matchups happen, and most of the worst teams, at least ranking wise, were at home, with a lot of the better ones on the road. And seeing those matchups happen, we thought that maybe there might be some discrepancy, at least a gap between the top SEC teams and that second tier. Those teams ranked from like 10 to 25 instead of the top 10 teams. But it seems like this past week things seemingly evened out a little bit more. At least from my perspective, I thought that the top teams were there was a gap, and maybe there isn't that much of a gap between that, especially with their home field advantage. And seeing Auburn take down LSU was one of those things where didn't necessarily expect that to happen. We didn't even have it as one of our series to predict, and luckily we didn't, because I'm guessing we both would have chosen LSU, and for Auburn to get that sweep at home was super impressive, and yeah, puts them potentially in that top tier, at least knocking on the door for that category.
Yeah, back to back super impressive series wins from Auburn, picking up the series win against Alabama and then sweeping LSU this weekend. Yeah, no chance either of us were predicting that, I think. And yeah, this Auburn pitching staff is really stepping up. Kept LSU to very few runs on the weekend. And if they're able to continue to do that against some of these dominant teams, then yeah, they're certainly in the conversation for the top tier of the SEC. Also picked up big midweek win over Georgia Tech. That was a competitive game as well and a very solid ranked win. So 4-0 week over very solid opponents. They're certainly in the conversation and knocking on the door for being a top 10 team now.
And I think right now, as we're speaking, they sit at number one for non-conference, or at least overall strength of schedule. So we'll see. That obviously changes day to day, but right now, even though they have more losses than a lot of teams in the top 10, that strength of schedule definitely something that is jumping off the paper there. But we can get out of the SEC rundown for now. Talk about a few teams that did jump into the top 25 here. It seemed like a pretty easy choice for us. Western Kentucky at 23 was, they've just been super consistent. Only have 5 losses on the record right now, and also jumping in, we have TCU making a little bit higher jump into that 20 spot. They've been pretty consistent recently, seeming like one of the better teams in the Big 12 right now. So definitely felt like they deserved to jump in, and a few teams right on the outside looking in just felt like there was a little bit of a gap, and only 2 teams, maybe 3, that could have dropped out. I think it was very easy to drop out. Wake Forest, they have been struggling recently, but there were definitely some considerations besides that.
Yeah, Western Kentucky just continues to win games. Kind of similar story to West Virginia, who's a little higher in our rankings right now, but both haven't played the best competition. Maybe West Virginia a couple more significant series, but still not a ton of competition. But both just continue to win games and both have very impressive records. So continue to win, you'll stay up. And Western Kentucky right now has by far the best pitching staff in the country. ERA wise, I think they're sitting at a 2.6 right now. I don't think there's another team under 3. So that pitching staff is absolutely dominant. We'll see if they're able to keep that up through the end of the year here, but very deserving of jumping in, as well as TCU, who now seems right at the battle there for the top of the Big 12.
Yeah, and they did have a series versus Kansas this past week. Seemed like maybe whichever team won that was going to jump in, and TCU was able to sweep, so definitely deserved a big jump there. And yes, I mean, speaking about Western Kentucky, obviously they have a very good ERA, might help just due to the competition they're facing, but still consistently putting up good numbers there. The teams that did drop out, like I mentioned, Wake Forest, also Vanderbilt. Felt like Louisville could also drop out here. We dropped him to 25 for now. Just seemed like there wasn't really another team to jump in yet, but definitely close for a few teams on the outside looking in. But Louisville has a very tough schedule coming up, so they could easily be dropping out pretty quickly if things don't turn around. Vanderbilt also has a extremely tough schedule, very similar look for both those teams. But Vanderbilt just started a little bit lower in our rankings last week at 22, while Louisville was at 21. So felt like it was right to drop them at this point. But yeah, certified Vandy hater looks pretty good at this point, but we'll see if that continues. They definitely have a tough stretch up ahead, so maybe they'll be dropping a lot further down, but could turn it around really quickly.
Yeah, both have very tough schedules coming up, and they'll certainly have their opportunities to either prove that they shouldn't be in the top 25 or solidify that they should stay in there. So, really in control of their own destiny there. Plenty of opportunity ahead, but that opportunity is certainly a challenging one. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And now, any other teams to mention in the top 25 here?
No, I don't think so.
Sweet. All right, we'll talk about teams that are just on the outside looking in. There were a decent amount last week. It seems like they kind of whittled down over the past weekend. A lot of teams right on the outside looking in did have some tough weeks, but now still looking at Southern Miss, like we mentioned, sitting at 2-2 for another straight week after they lost at Alabama and then won their road series at Texas State as expected. Going 2-2, sitting on the outside. Probably need a few good weeks for us to jump them in now, just because of how consistently they've been average. But other teams here, Cal Poly, maybe the next team to jump in, but they have a very interesting stretch coming up, which is why we kind of left them out for now with UC Santa Barbara this week and then UC Irvine the week after. So this is really a make or break few weeks for them. If they can win those series, then they could easily put themselves in contention for being one of the best mid majors, if not the best. But yeah, it should be very exciting for that school coming up if they're able to get those series wins.
Yeah, Cal Poly's been on an absolute hot stretch to start the Big West play. I think they were 12-0 going into this weekend, but faced the top three teams here: Hawaii, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, and won that first series against Hawaii. And that's a good start here. We'll see if they're able to pick up these next two. And similar story to what we just talked about with Vanderbilt and Louisville. A lot of challenges up ahead, but opportunity to move up in the rankings if they can take care of business. And yeah, certainly one of our top teams on the outside looking in right now.
Yep, for sure. Another team to mention would be NC State. They've started to definitely turn things around, had that tough start to the season, and have been slowly winning some series here in ACC play, and now going for a 3-1 week, beating ECU, which looks like a decent win. Obviously, they're a little down this year, but then beating ranked Louisville, winning that series there. So very, very solid week. Maybe could have jumped him in over Louisville, but we'll give them one more week there, and if they're able to continue to do that, then they should be able to see themselves in the top 25.
Yeah, just a kind of weird team with ups and downs throughout the year. Kind of seems like the story for the ACC so far this year, outside of maybe Clemson and Florida State, who have been near the top the whole year. Seems like everyone else has kind of gone through a rough stretch and rebounded, and then maybe another rough stretch in there as well. So hard to really get a gauge on these teams outside of Clemson, Florida State. We have North Carolina closing back in on the top 10 there now, but yeah, it's kind of a jumbled mess. And take your pick at those teams at the around the 25 mark. Any of them could be in or out any week.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the last team that I want to mention is Texas A&M. I still think they're a few weeks out from making their way back into the top 25, but they've slowly been turning some heads now, at least getting back on the right trail for the time being. So if they're able to continue to grab some wins here or there, they have a very tough schedule to end the season. But there are still a few opportunities against some of the lesser SEC teams as well to grab some wins. And if they're able to do that, then they could see themselves back in the top 25.
Yeah, certainly on the outside looking in and getting hot. We know they have the talent, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'll point out another Texas team as well in UTSA. Besides that Dallas Baptist loss, they've continued to pick up wins, one of them being a midweek over our new number one team, Texas. So very solid win there. And as a mid-major, got to jump on those opportunities in the midweeks, and they've done that a couple times. So certainly another team to keep our eye on there.
Yep, for sure. And now we can head into our series predictions from last week, reviewing what happened, and it was our best week of the year so far cumulatively. Luckily, didn't have to choose between Auburn and LSU, like we mentioned. Would definitely have chosen wrong. At least I would have. But here we both went 4-1. Yeah, the only series that went split were the ones that we did not agree upon. So taking those losses there, that just automatically would have come up cumulatively anyways, but getting wins out of the series we did agree on, which is good to see. I mean, easy predictions this week, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean we got max value for disagreeing on two series out of the five, so we'll certainly take that. And I think we're still tied up overall, so it's a heated race so far, and got I think five weekends left of the regular season. We'll see how things go down the stretch here.
Yeah, both sitting at 21 and 14. Right now, I looked back at last year how our predictions were, and we'll just say we're doing a lot better this year. We're sitting around 500, give or take a little bit, but yeah, definitely sitting a lot prettier at this point. But now looking ahead to some future games this weekend, series slate isn't as stacked as it was last week. I think I mentioned that maybe the most stacked series slate last week, at least from a depth standpoint. This week, it seems like a lot of the better teams, especially in the SEC, are at home now. So some lesser teams on the road, but who knows? Still could get those upsets. Just don't really see those happening as much. Starting with number 11 Auburn at number 1 Texas. I think it's going to be tough to look past Texas here. They've just been so good at home. Yeah, especially against top tier SEC teams. It seems like they're able to really handle business there, but you never know. Auburn is extremely hot, so could be able to switch things up and get a series win here.
Yeah, extremely difficult to pick against Texas when they already have series wins against LSU and Georgia when they're at home in Austin there. So that'll be tough, but Auburn's hot right now as well. Hopefully we get another competitive series. We've been seeing that a lot in the recent weeks, so should be a good one, but really going to be hard to stray away from Texas there.
Yep, for sure. And in kind of a similar manner, we have number 18, Alabama, going to number 9, LSU. Both teams have had a little bit of struggles the past few weeks, but LSU at home is going to be tough for Alabama to overcome. And if things don't go great for them, they could see themselves at the very back end of the top 25 or even dropping out because of how bad their struggles have been recently.
Yeah, starting to get a little concerning there, dropping the a few series in succession there. So certainly concerning. See if we're able to get on the right track, and yeah, certainly an opportunity to prove it and get back in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think now looking at maybe what looks like the most competitive series on paper, we have number 8 UCLA going to number 16 Oregon. Both teams vying for that potential first year in the Big Ten and winning the conference title. So it's this means a lot for both teams. Whoever wins this series puts themselves in a very good position to go on a late run and take the title. So should be super exciting to see what happens here.
Yeah, the West Coast has kind of taken over the Big Ten a bit this year with the four big new Pac-12 teams joining the Big Ten. The four new ones that make four of the top six teams there, and UCLA, Oregon, two of the teams fighting for that title. Iowa's in the top spot right now. Still has a series left against Oregon. Don't think they play UCLA this year, but yeah, UCLA and Oregon certainly in the fight here, and you think the winner of this series is certainly in a good position to end up taking that conference title potentially.
Yeah, for sure. And staying on the West Coast, we have two very important series for conference standings. We have Hawaii going to number 17 UC Irvine and Cal Poly going to UC Santa Barbara. I think Hawaii's kind of dropped off recently, have had some pretty bad losses, kind of on the outside looking in now, but UC Irvine, Cal Poly, and UCSB still relatively in the mix for conference standings there and getting that conference title. But yeah, should be super exciting for that league. This is maybe the biggest weekend they have so far with all the top teams on paper facing each other. So yeah, should be cool to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting weekend for those Big West matchups. I'd say Cal Poly and UC Irvine, both kind of in the contention for a hosting spot right now. UCSB and Hawaii, both looking to just make the tournament in general here at this point. So, kind of a lot on the line for all four teams in these big series here. Different things on the line, but definitely a lot of tensions and a lot at stake. So, should be fun.
Yeah, all these teams are pretty much the only teams in the conference with good RPIs. There's a lot of bottom dwellers there at the back end. So these series mean a lot for just boosting the RPI because they will drop when facing bad teams, even if they are able to win series there. So super important to get out on the right foot here. Looking at now a rivalry game, we have Kansas State at Kansas. Both teams past few weeks were right on the outside looking in. Both have had relatively bad losses past few weeks, so have dropped back a little bit, but this could get them right back in the conversation for whichever team wins the series.
Yeah, certainly a big one. And we've seen, a decent amount of Big 12 teams around the outside of the top 25 bouncing in, kind of similar with the ACC, just a bundle around there, trying to go in and out. And feels like this Kansas State one could be fringe on who's making the tournament. Both of these teams were looking like they could be in hosting conversation for a bit, but both had some rough weekends. And now you kind of just want to solidify making the tournament in general and saying that you're near the top of the Big 12 standings.
Yep, for sure. And lastly, on my slate of series to look at this weekend is UT Rio Grande Valley at Southeastern Louisiana. Two of the top three teams in the conference there, so should be really good. I think Rio Grande Valley faces the second team, McNeese, the week after. So, if they're able to win these series, this could put them in a very good spot. who knows? Maybe they could even put themselves in contention for a hosting, but at least putting in for definitely making the tournament if they're able to win these games here. But it's going to be tough competition, and should be good to see how things pan out. But super important next few weeks for Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun with the mid majors is there's usually only a couple solid teams in each conference, and so when those big matchups come, there's a lot on the line, and so this is certainly a fun one here, and like you said, kind of a lot on the line when these few matchups do come up, so all eyes are on it.
Yeah, definitely. Any other series to mention on your side?
And I think we covered it all for the most part.
Sweet. Well, we'll get into our player of the week now, and that goes to Harrison Bodendorf, pitcher for Oklahoma State. Friday night at Arizona, after there were some interesting incidents that happened with some paratroopers taking some heavy fall damage before the game started. But looking at just the pitching performance overall, we have 10 innings pitched, 1 earned run given up, and 10 strikeouts. Super impressive stuff to be able to go that deep into a game, especially in Arizona. Not exactly sure how hot it was for a Friday night. Usually it's not too bad, but to just limit that, just give up 1 run in that ballpark is super impressive. This Arizona team knows how to play that field very well and just stack up runs. It's so big, and the outfield just continues forever. But Harrison Bodendorf able to do it in 10 innings, super impressive stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's super impressive to stretch a start out to 10 innings, especially at High Corbett Field there in Arizona. Just huge dimensions, and it seems like just random base hits fall in that probably shouldn't fall in, and that kind of just extends innings, gets your pitch count up. And so I didn't see what his pitch count was, but it's just impressive to be able to make it through 10 innings and really limit that offense at that field.
Yep, for sure. And then going to our top play this week, we'll play it now.
Been a pinch hitter throughout this season. And the 1-0 shot up in the sky into shallow left field. A few Trojans looking back, and what a grab! Jacob Wax. You hope he's okay. He's laying flat in left field. How did he make that grab?
All right, here we had Jacob Wax, the shortstop for Troy, over the head diving catch, running full speed, having to kind of change his direction mid-air to be able to make an adjustment and make that catch. Super impressive to be able to do that in shallow left field there. But yeah, great catch, and overall really good play to see there. And
yeah, I mean, full sprint has a good range there, and there had to have been some spin on the ball or some wind for having to make that last second adjustment, but still super impressive catch even after almost overrunning it on that full sprint there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, anything else to mention before we wrap this up?
I think we're all good.
Sweet. Well, appreciate everybody tuning in for this week's episode of the Sweep Baseball Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Peace.